Welcome to This Explainer. We are jumping right in today because we're exploring one of the most profound and honestly most fascinating systems of thought ever developed, the exact mechanics of cause and effect in Buddhist philosophy. We're going to pop the hood and unpack the engine of existence itself, looking at the incredibly interconnected concepts of karma and rebirth and figuring out exactly what happens when we die, according to this ancient yet highly systematic worldview.
It's literally the ultimate question, isn't it? But to even begin to understand the Buddhist answer, we kind of have to throw out our traditional Western views of life, death, and the soul. In a lot of Western traditions, you have a permanent soul that's created, lives one time, and then moves on to some eternal afterlife. Buddhism, however, flips the script with a vastly different concept called samsara. This is an endless, beginningless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. It's not just a one-and-done journey, it is a continuous, highly dynamic process.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit karma as the creative force, then look at fueling the cycle, move into the mechanism of rebirth, tackle continuity without a soul, and finally wrap up with breaking the cycle. Starting with part 1, karma, the creative force. We actually need to bust a massive popular myth right out of the gate here. In everyday conversation, people always use the word karma to mean some sort of cosmic reward and punishment system, or like an unavoidable destiny. But the sources are super clear. It is absolutely not fate, and it's not cosmic retribution. Karma literally translates to action. But wait, it's not just any mechanical or involuntary twitch. Karma is specifically intentional, conscious, and deliberate volitional action. It's action powered by your will. So think of it less like a destiny written in the stars and much more like a dynamic seed you are actively planting right now. The Buddha actually spelled this out perfectly. He stated that it's the volition, the core intention behind the deed that truly matters. Whether you're acting out physically, speaking words, or even just turning things over in your own private thoughts, your deeply held intentions are leaving a literal energetic imprint on your mental continuum. It's stored potential energy, just waiting. Because of that, we have to starkly contrast the Western idea of a fixed fate with the Buddhist concept of conditioning. You see, karma doesn't predetermine every single tiny detail of your future. Instead, it acts as a seed waiting to ripen, which conditions the environment and the station in life you're drawn toward. Wholesome actions, stuff rooted in generosity and love, condition us toward fortunate circumstances, like human or even heavenly realms. On the flip side, unwholesome actions, rooted in greed or hatred, pull us toward realms of woe. You are the architect here, not the victim.
Okay, moving to part 2, fueling the cycle. If karma is the working part of the engine, what exactly is the fuel keeping this continuous cycle of action and reaction running? The texts lay out this fascinating 4-step chain reaction called dependent origination. It kicks off with step 1, ignorance. Now, this isn't a lack of book smarts. It's a fundamental ignorance of true reality and the 4 noble truths. This ignorance creates the illusion of a permanent, separate self. And because we think we're this permanent self, we slide right into step 2, craving. We thirst and crave for existence and sensual pleasure to satisfy that ego, which leads to step 3, clinging tightly to things that are in reality totally impermanent. And that desperate clinging, that is exactly what solidifies into step 4, new volitional action, new karma. The sources use a really brilliant botanical metaphor for this. Just imagine a giant tree. Our continuous cycle of suffering and existence grows out of a fundamental darkness or ignorance. That ignorance is the hidden root. Craving is the massive branch that grows out of it, and the inevitable fruit that drops from the tree is suffering and continuous rebirth. Let's dive into part 3, the mechanism of rebirth. So we've got all this accumulated karmic energy, and it's fueled by our craving. How does this actually translate into a brand new life when our physical body eventually fails?
Well, before we look at the exact moment of death, we have to zoom way out. The Buddhist cosmos operates on a mind-bogglingly vast scale. We're talking 6 different realms of existence, ranging from hell realms and hungry ghosts, all the way up to animals, humans, demigods, and heavenly gods. And the texts tell us we have been circling through all of these, driven blindly by our karma, since beginningless time. So how do we actually make the jump between these forms? Death is an incredibly intricate psychological process. First, our physical senses lose vitality and worldly inhibitions completely fade away. Then, right at the end, a crucial final thought moment arises. This usually reflects a really significant past action, or a symbol of that action, which is called a kama nimitta.
Finally, propelled by that deep thirst for continued existence we talked about, this final thought moment conditions a rebirth link in consciousness. This consciousness then arises in a new physical form, like a newly fertilized egg.
Which naturally brings us to part 4, continuity without a soul. Now brace yourselves, because this is a massive philosophical mind bender. How on earth can rebirth happen if Buddhism strictly teaches anatta, the core concept that there is absolutely no permanent self or soul? To wrap our heads around this, we really have to separate transmigration from rebirth. Transmigration implies there's this unchanging, eternal soul packing its bags and moving from one physical box to another. Buddhism flat out rejects this. Instead, we have rebirth. Rebirth is a continuity of process without any permanent substance transferring at all. It's an unbroken stream of cause and effect, not a traveling entity. The ancient texts provide some fantastic physical analogies to help us visualize this. Imagine lighting a new candle from an old flame. No actual physical substance travels from the first candle to the second one, right? Yet the first flame is the absolute direct cause of the second flame. Or think of a sprout growing from a seed. They aren't identical, but the seed absolutely conditions the sprout. Or even the kinetic energy transferring between billiard balls when they smack together on a table. There's a clear continuity of energy and direction, but there's no permanent self hidden inside the movement. There's also a really great modern analogy in the sources. Think about radio waves. Radio waves are moving through the air right now. They're totally invisible, and they aren't literally made of words or music. They're just energy at specific frequencies. But when they get picked up by a physical receiver, like, say, a newly fertilized egg, they broadcast as a brand new personality. The karmic energy transmits, but no physical soul ever traveled the distance. And amazingly, modern quantum physics actually mirrors this exact mechanism. In classical physics, you think of an electron moving physically through space. But in quantum mechanics, an electron can just disappear from one orbital and instantly reappear in another without ever traversing the space in between. Rebirth is modeled in a very similar way. The material body disintegrates, and the immaterial energy reappears in a scientifically known state elsewhere, instantly conditioned by the past. It's pretty wild to think about. All right, part 5, breaking the cycle. If samsara is this endless, frankly exhausting machine powered by karma and fueled by our own ignorance and craving, how do we finally pull the plug? The ultimate goal here is nirvana. But the really crucial takeaway is that nirvana isn't some magical, eternal heaven you travel to after you die. It is the complete cessation of the engine itself. You achieve this by exhausting your old karma and removing the underlying causes so that absolutely no new karma is ever produced. You have to actively eradicate ignorance with wisdom and extinguish craving through renunciation. Simply put, when there's no fuel left, the engine stops. Here is the entire architectural blueprint for the solution. The problem is samsara and continuous karma. The fuel keeping it going is ignorance, craving, and volition. So the solution is the Noble Eightfold Path. By actively practicing this path, you are systematically cultivating the exact wisdom needed to destroy ignorance and the mental discipline required to extinguish craving for good. You stop blindly reacting, and because of that, you stop generating the karmic seeds for future birth. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful quote from the sources. Recognizing the circularity of samsara is the beginning of liberation. Just seeing this machine for what it truly is, a continuous, conditional loop of cause and effect, driven completely by your own mind, is the vital first step toward breaking free from it. After all, you can't escape a maze until you realize you're walking in circles, right? So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on. We are all the architects of our own continuum. Take a second to reflect on your personal engine of craving. Based on what we've just learned about the sheer power of intentional action, what volitional seeds are you deliberately planting in your life today? Because those seeds, without a doubt, are conditioning exactly what happens to you next. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.